Dada, kindly confirm that all members are present for the meeting and we are ready to start.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members. Chairperson, on the platform, we have about 6 members so far. We have one apology of Honorable Khatebe, which I will deal with it later on. Otherwise, Chairperson, we are good to go. We can start the meeting. We have got enough members to start the meeting. Thank you.
A very good morning to all the members of the committee, the support staff of the committee, the colleagues from the National Treasury, and honorable members from provincial portfolio committees on finance present with us today. Colleagues, today's meeting is dedicated to receiving a National Treasury's responses to submissions made by external stakeholders as well as issues raised through the provincial negotiating mandates on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill, which is Bill 28 of 2025. The inputs are an essential component of the legislative process, ensuring that the amendments to the bill are informed by both public participation and the perspectives of our provinces. The committee therefore expects clear, focused, and substantive responses, particularly on matters relating to equitable share adjustments, revisions to conditional grants, and the broader fiscal implications for provincial and local government performances. These clarifications will assist the committee in finalizing its report and ensuring that the bill upholds principles of accountability, transparency, and effective intergovernmental fiscal relations. I therefore want to welcome all into this meeting, and then Mr. Onodada kindly take us through the apologies of members or any other colleague that was expected to the meeting but could not make it.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members and colleagues. Chairperson, we received an apology from Honorable Khatebe. He is attending a meeting in the Free State Provincial Legislature. We also received apologies from the Minister of Finance, Honorable Kotongwana, and the Deputy Minister of Finance, Honorable Sarupen. We received an apology from the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Finance in Northern Cape, Honorable Kwinana. Those are the few apologies that we have received, Chairperson.
With the apologies noted, I will not waste any time, but I will invite National Treasury to kindly start their presentation. I was not made aware who in the National Treasury will be leading the delegation to today's meeting, but whoever that is delegated is now invited to can start the presentation. Thank you very much and welcome once again.
Good morning, Chair.
Morning, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good, and you, and honorable members. Dr. Pakis will take us members through our presentation. Thank you.
Dr. Pakis, you are invited to can make a presentation.
No, thanks, Honorable Chair. I was worried that the gadget was letting me down. Sincere apologies for that. So, Honorable Chair, we have shared with the committee 2 documents that contain the substantive information in response to, firstly, the negotiating mandates, but also the public hearings. I'm going to speak to that document, honorable members, which I'm hoping that the honorable members have that in front of them. Obviously, honorable members, there are issues that are cutting across many provinces, as well as the public hearings in terms of the submissions that we have received. So to spare you really I think to spare you the time, I'm not going to speak to each individual a submission that was made, but I'll try to group them as themed, but also give us the substantial information that the chairperson has asked for. For bandwidth, Honorable Chair, I would like to then switch off my camera at this point. So, honorable members, we received a number of submissions, and just reflecting on the process that we have followed is such that when we received these negotiating mandates as a start, we then had to share these across the various institutions with the various sections within National Treasury,
Dr.
where the
Pakis,
specialty.
I'm sorry
Yes,
for
Chairperson.
I'm sorry for disrupting you. Are you not going to be able to flag the presentation?
No, I'm speaking to our submission, Honorable Chair. It's a Word document.
Okay.
Yes.
Members, I hope you'll follow through the documents which you received on your gadgets. We apologize for that. You may continue, Dr. Pakis.
As a start, Honorable Chair, I think there are quite a number of cross-cutting themes related to the local government share, as well as the general funding architecture of government in terms of the intergovernmental fiscal framework. There's a lot of unhappiness around the current 9.6% share of local government, which is a constitutionally based in terms of the reflection that we would like to submit to the committee, which reflects the own revenue capacity of municipalities and their spending responsibilities. Here we are saying, honorable members, that there is work that is underway that is looking exactly at the issue of the 9.6%. So it's not a matter that can be addressed through this amendment bill, but we just want to flag the progress in terms of the work that is being done. There are two key critical reviews that are taking place. On one hand, it is the white paper on local government, which is currently under review, and looking at the principles and policies that inform that 9.6%. The honorable members would note that in the past, when this determination was made, there was a lot of, at the time, assumptions that were made in terms of the ability of municipalities to be able to raise substantial revenue sources. What we have seen over the years is that this assumption does require to be tested. So the principles and the policy assumptions around that are currently being considered. Of course, they are considered within the framework of what can then be done and whether those assumptions still hold even today. So whether the share increases or not is going to be based on the outcomes of that policy as well as the principles that are coming from the white paper itself. Now, parallel to this, honorable members, but also informing this process is a more detailed review of the local government equitable share, which is within the local government a fiscal framework review, which the National Treasury is doing. So far, an inception report has been adopted by the steering committee of the DGs of all the sectors that are playing part in terms of supporting local government. To mention just a few, DCOC, the water and sanitation, the Department of Electricity and Energy, Environmental Affairs, of course, is chaired by the DG of the National Treasury. So this steering committee has met later in September and considered the inception report and adopted it as a credible a way to take this way forward, which will be addressing really how we start to fund local government. This review, honorable members, is looking at the revenue potential that local government has. We would know that there's a lot of inefficiencies within local government itself. So it is about quantifying it and also unlocking some of the blockages, which is why this is a review that is supported by the Operation Vulindlela in terms of unlocking really some of the blockages that exist in the system. It's looking at what needs to change to unlock that, whether the current revenue sources actually are still relevant and they are optimally being utilized across the municipalities, whether there is value in considering a new revenue sources that could be added. If then that's the case, then which are those, given also that the consumers themselves are quite stretched. So it's going to be a balancing act that will need to take place around that particular work. So this work has also produced its methodology in terms of what is going to happen and how the work is going to be undertaken. So it's going to be a very structured approach, which has actually started. About 44 municipalities have been approached to form a focus group, but also to provide more detailed information to allow for the detailed analysis that is required. And of those, 32 of them have already responded. In fact, 30 of them, as of yesterday, were already interviewed and provided their inputs, because it's quite important that this be evidence based in how it then be approached. So these 32 municipalities cut across the different categories, so they are a fair representation of local government. Of course, there's still going to be an opportunity for other municipalities to also partake in this study. We have had between the 32 honorable members and the 44, some of the municipalities that for one reason or the other, either they've declined to be part of the review or they've been non-responsive in this process. But we are confident that the ones that we have are adequate enough to be able to take us forward. However, honorable members, as an update as well, it's quite important to note that of the 32 that are currently on board, only 14 of those have actually provided the detailed information that is required for a detailed analysis of this work. So we do really are trying to get a SALGA to assist us in terms of those. So we'll be sending the list to SALGA to also just nudge them to assist us in getting the relevant and necessary information that's going to help us in taking this work forward. And then the timelines around this work. So we are anticipating that this being the time where we're collecting the data. So the expenditure report will be available by March. End of March, we'll be able to issue an expenditure report, which will then be followed by a revenue report. So the expenditure report will be outlining exactly where the bottlenecks are, where municipalities are spending the money, but where the inefficiencies are, where municipalities are conducting a business that is not theirs in terms of the unfunded budgets that are also crippling their bottom lines as well in terms of being able to service the communities, but also where the equitable share money is going, given that it is meant to then service the poor as a priority for government as well. After that report, then, honorable members, we then move to the detailed equitable share modeling process, because at that point we will have the information that is coming from the interviews that are being conducted at a sector level, over and above the involvement of the DGs. There is also a reference group which also forms part of the nominated officials by the DGs in that space as well. So that's the work that will then be undertaken in terms terms of actually closing the gap in terms of the various sectors and what is observed there. So current discussions are underway. All these sectors have been met. We're only meeting with COPTA early next year to then close the loop. So other meetings have already taken place with the different sectors. Quite key, honorable members, is that then there's the synthesis of the information and then the availability of the data to then inform the modeling process, which is going to be around June next year with the modeling. So the minister is task us to ensure that the findings of the work that we're doing is then able to inform the 2027 budget, meaning that we do have a hard stop in October to then be able to deliver on that one. So this, honorable members, answers all the questions that are related to the local government equitable share, the work underway there, and what is being done. In just short summary is that it's a function of the white paper review as well as the local government fiscal framework review, which are currently underway. So any attempts to actually override that and make some changes will not be informed by a reason-based modeling process, which we are not at that point at this moment. The second big area, honorable members, that came up, of course, was also with the provincial equitable share. And here, the issues around the sparsity, the issues around the different provinces and the cost factors that each of the provinces are experiencing this, the issue of the impact of the census data that is emanating and causing some of the big shifts that are being seen in terms of also the cushioning that has taken place. Here, honorable members, it is important to indicate that the provincial equitable share formula is undergoing a review with active provincial treasury participation. This is aiming to incorporate the latest status as well as the administrative data. So the changes that you see year on year are because of the changes that are being incorporated. Now, the sense we're getting, honorable members, is that the provincial counterparts, our provincial counterparts, may not be as transparent as we would want them to be about their involvement in this working group, because most of the issues that are coming up around making the formula more accessible and also being involved in the technical details of this is all something that is taking place. We have a task team for the provincial equitable share, which is looking at all these things, which each data coming, they become part of informing how that data is used, whether the impact is phased and how long that impact is phased. Of course, they are just a technical team. These are taken through other avenues as well, which includes the TCF, where the HODs meet with the Treasury, the HODs of the provincial treasuries meet with the National Treasury to also consider the impact of the updates that are being made. And of course, the last leg of consideration here at a technical level, then it moves and as a recommendation to where the Minister of Finance and the MECs of Finance sit. So there's detailed work, honorable members, that is happening there. So the question around the geographic cost adjustment, the poverty weighting, the rurality are key focus areas to improve the equity and responsiveness. So we also welcome suggestions around us partnering with the FFC to get a more rurality a measure into these things. So we're looking forward to that, because for us, transparency in terms of provincial involvement in the formula calculations are actually quite key. And also any mechanisms as suggested in terms of public tracking and reporting mechanism being explored are also welcome. So the task team met twice in the last 2 months, I think, where it was considering the next actions. And key and high in the list of the task team has been the issue of the weightings within the provincial equitable share, especially the poverty component as well, but also to look at whether education and health as the biggest component within this are actually still appropriate in terms of the weighting, because that's where really funds get to be channeled mostly, as that is a key cost driver. So there's work underway there, honorable members. There were a number of recommendations, honorable members, some comments around infrastructure delivery and the conditional grants. Some of the questions involved around the merger of the school infrastructure backlogs grant with the education infrastructure backlog grant. And the point we want to make here, honorable members, which is also something that came up quite a lot in the public hearings, is that what is happening here, this is to improve the coordination and efficiency within the sector. So we have had instances where there was the building of 2 schools in the same area through these 2 different grants, because the issue of coordination and planning has been weak in the sector as well. So combining these 2 grants immediately erases that particular concern, because now there is going to be a concerted effort to then work together to address these issues. Also key in this reform, honorable members, is the issue of ensuring that actually there is a policy direction that is afforded, and then there is the support that is provided to the provinces. So the EIG is a direct grant to the provinces, and then the sector department now, which is the national department, can now also play a stronger oversight role over the provincial provision of school infrastructure, because as things stand, if you have a national sector department also delivering, then you would have a skewed focus in terms of what needs to be done. So we do think that this improved coordination and efficiency will result in better delivery. Other issues around disaster and climate resistant funding, we just want to indicate to honorable members that what we've been working on in terms of the disaster finance risk mechanism is obviously a 3-pronged approach, and we want, there to be more options that are available to us. So prior to these occurrences, we actually want to ensure that all the conditional grants that exist, the built environment grant, are then mainstreamed into funding the climate resistance. So the adaptation, mitigation, as well as climate resilience is something that should form part and parcel of the already existing mechanism. It would be a mistake for us to then separate climate-related interventions to ones of opportunities where we fund it with a particular grant, for instance, as it has been suggested in one of the provinces. So really, if we are to deal with the issue of climate funding, we need to be doing things better across all conditional grants. And that for us is quite important, which is why the current discussions around the framework is about how then do we bring in a climate adaptation measures and also risk assessments to be funded, so that we can know the quantum and how then we can adapt. And obviously here, it's an evolving space, honorable members. The Climate Change Act of 2024 is still being institutionalized in many of these institutions. And there's also currently some consideration of a climate fund that's going to come. So how then the conditional grant system as it exists and how it then ties up and marries with what is coming out of that process is something that is going to be clarified in the few days, as there are currently some conversations between ourselves as National Treasury, the FFE, as well as the presidency, who are also driving this fund as well. Also important in this space is then the monitoring and the accountability mechanisms in terms of these conditional grants. And these are being strengthened. They should be strengthened because of the weaknesses that the conditional grants review has picked up around these issues. Honorable Chair, there were also a number of questions around the issue of municipal financial sustainability and accountability. And here is to indicate that because the financial parts of it really are led by National Treasury. So National Treasury has been intensifying its support to municipalities. This is through the municipal financial recovery services, as well as the revenue assessment tools that the IGR team is leading on. So these are also complemented by the enforcement measures, including the withholding of transfers and also the implementation now of the Section 216 of the Constitution, which is being rolled out. So all these are meant to assist municipalities in terms of dealing with the issues that they have, but where penalties are necessary, that is, the necessary penalties are done. Again, this also links to the work that is being done in terms of the review. So while the system is being reformed through these reviews that are done in terms of the white paper as well as the local government fiscal framework, there's also intensifying of the support to the current initiatives that exist in the system. There are sector-specific funding programs that were then asked about. So those, they speak to the school nutrition, around the scholar transport, and then in some cases there were some recommendations and questions that we asked around the smallholder farmers, around the pepper funding and so forth. In terms of the national school nutrition and scholar transport funding challenges, these honorable members are acknowledged, and focus is really on improving oversight and efficiency rather than creating the new funding mechanisms that have been suggested here. So how then do we strengthen and support the provinces to use the equitable share quite effectively in dealing with scholar transport is a question that we're answering with the sector department. In terms of the school nutrition, yes, as a result of the kind of pressures that I experience from across government institutions, whenever there have been budget reductions, this particular stream, because of its importance and the impact that it has been protected from those cuts, what we could call cuts. Then there is also the support for the smallholder farmers that is being streamlined. So the changes that you are seeing in terms of the agriculture sector is actually streamlining the smallholder farmers through the measure of the grant, and also improving the administrative processes which have hindered the smallholder farmers from accessing those funds in the first place. And then in terms of the public employment programs, as well as the health funding, which includes PEFA, there is an ongoing review of all public employment programs. So the suggestions around EPWP, CWP, and the creation of other vehicles in government will have to follow the guidance that is coming out of these reviews. These reviews are led by the presidency along with National Treasury. I think they are at the tail end of the process, and then they're going to inform how the shape, the look of these employment programs are going to look going forward, including EPWP. So it would be really too early, honorable members, to then be increasing funding at a time where there is a review that is actually looking at that point. Now, honorable members, a big issue around data and transparency assessment exists. in terms of the local government equitable share, number of data sources that we're using are dependent on State SA data. So there is support for State SA's funding to then accelerate the updates in terms of the relevant information that is required to then update the formulas. This, honorable members, has not been an easy task. As honorable members would know, in our previous engagement with yourself, we had hoped that by now we would have the expenditure and income survey, which would then be able to help us update the poverty elements of the local government equitable share. Unfortunately, we do not have that data. And the Director General of National Treasury has written to the Statistician General around this matter and the importance of getting this information. Unfortunately, at this point, as we speak with you today, honorable members, we haven't received a response. But the engagement continue. And there's also, I think, some budget bid that came from State SA to also be able to enhance its capacity in this space as well. Honorable members, there were then some provincial specific issues that were raised. If one can just look at the issue of traditional leaders and the funding that is involved, there is a suggestion that there should be a new conditional grant that funds the traditional leaders. And the point that is being raised here, honorable members, is that there are policy discussions that are actually currently taking place that involve COGTA, National Treasury, and these technical decisions, are trying to align with the evolving policy space around the traditional leaders. So the funding model then cannot presuppose the policy discussions. So the policies would need to then be firmed up, then that consideration can take place. There is an issue around the public transport operating grant that was raised by the Eastern Cape Legislature. And what is important here, honorable members, is that while this is an important grant in the system, it is dealing with the legacy issues. And then in the current fiscal environment that we're in, it is difficult to add additional funding to the system. However, this is more than anything a policy matter which the Department of Transport should be brought into the conversation. So we're really encouraging the provinces to then deal with the issue from the sector's perspective, and where there is no joy in terms of the sector policy direction, then they can direct these through their provincial treasury so that they can be dealt with from another angle, which is the financial angle. But really, it's a policy issue which should be dealt with from the policy perspective as well. Honorable members, I think this deals with the bulk of the issues that were raised. I would also just want to indicate to the honorable members that we do appreciate the views that are emerging, and then they are assisting in shaping the current discussions and the submissions that are made, especially in these two key policy positions that are being driven by COGTA in terms of the white paper and the local government equitable share, as well as the fiscal framework or the funding model is being called for local government. So these are key, and these are the submissions that are being considered. Maybe just to add, the last part, Chair, is just on the transparency issues that have been raised. So there is consideration of putting the equitable share. The local government equitable share is already on the Treasury website. So we will just discuss with State SA in terms of the data that informs if that can be also made available in their website, so that people that want to run the formulas themselves then can be able to do that themselves. and then, yeah, that should be it, Dilichi. I don't know if there's anything else you want us to emphasize. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Paki. So Chair will hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Mema Khaurekwe and Dr. Bakis. Members, I now invite you to make comments and ask questions to Team National Treasury. I see the hand of Honorable Siwisa and Honorable Ryder. Honorable Majola, you'll be the third one. Honorable Siwisa, you may come in.
No, thank you, Chair. Greetings, everyone. Chairperson. Chair, let me first register my dissatisfaction that we only received a response this morning. And I think literally 30 minutes before the meeting could even start, which is very unfair, which means that some of us could not do proper preparations towards how to go through the notes, especially even for our provinces. So maybe I must just register that. Chair, and it raises a question that I've been asking myself as to whether National Treasury does have the capacity to do the work that needs to be done. Because we've all been busy for the past week or so. So it's a concern, Chair, that I'm trying to register here. Nonetheless, Chair, coming to the issue of the local government equitable share and the provincial equitable share, the issue of equitable share should have been addressed a long time ago, Chair. The slow pace of lack of service delivery should have sparked the National Treasury to embark on a reviewing without even waiting for stakeholders or provinces or even this committee to raise the issue, especially coming to the submission to introduce the geographic cost adjustment, which comes from the Northern Cape. The issue of transparency being raised by the National Treasury is very alarming, Chair. Does this mean that the National Treasury does not have the capacity or the mechanism to make own research pertaining what provinces need or what provinces are submitting to them, portraying to be happening in their provinces? So it's very alarming, Chair, that we are sitting in this meeting and then we are being told that 30 plus so many years into democracy that there are issues that some provinces are not transparent when it comes to them submitting what the provinces need. At this rate of operation, Chair, then we have a long way towards manageable coordination between National Treasury, sectoral departments and the provinces. National Treasury should start to be proactive and not only note some of the recommendations, but actually start implementing submissions done by stakeholders, recommendations done by this committee. And because at the end of the day, Chair, these stakeholders that came to make submissions on the division of revenue across all provinces, they are the ones that know better what is needed by their people, because some of them, they are so the people that are involved with society and communities, and they know what's happening down there. So it's about time that National Treasury becomes proactive, Chair. This thing of saying we are reviewing, we are considering, we are noting, we should be told that this is what we are going to implement. It's a pity that the minister and the deputy minister are not here. And that's the thing that we are always left with, that we need to deal with officials, but the owners of the house are not here, so that they should hear our concerns. So it's about time National Treasury becomes proactive. Before even stakeholders can come up with what needs to be done, they should have been proactive to know what's happening there, because at the end of the day, the money that is being spent is the money that comes from them, which means that they should also be on the ground to go and not only rely on provinces to give them as to what the province needs, because now they are telling us that provinces are not being transparent about the issues of their provinces. And on that note, Chair, I think I'm going to end there because I can't even engage further because I only received That's a response about 30 minutes ago. So I can't even go through all the notes that I wanted to go through specifically for the province of the Northern Cape. And it should be noted, Chair, that in future we need to get the responses in time and not 30 minutes before, because all of us, we've been busy. We've been dealing with appropriation bills, we've been dealing with finance, we've been dealing with division of revenue. So the question that I'm sitting here and asking myself, does National Treasury have the capacity to deal with certain matters when they are under pressure, Chair? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Siwisa. Honorable Ryder.
Good morning, Chairperson. Thank you very much indeed for the opportunity. Thanks to Treasury for the presentations. I must agree, I think 30 minutes before the presentation, getting the documents is not great. We must, of course, remember that we are here processing this particular adjustment bill or amendment bill in a very short space of time. And that puts everyone under pressure. And I think that the provinces particularly have done a remarkably good job of getting decent reports out, quality reports out that get to the heart of the issues. And I really think Treasury should have done better. And before they point to the fact that the time was limited, they must remember that it's because of them. You know, I don't think the presentation of the adjustment budget was deferred because Minister Godongwana wanted to go on a holiday or do something else. He's a diligent minister, and we have lots of respect for him. But it would have been Treasury that would have requested that they be given more time. So they've put us under time pressure, and they continue to do so, Chairperson. And an expectation that when I get out of bed, the only thing that is in my diary is a meeting is not great. It doesn't sit well, Chairperson. Having said that, I want to just deal with a couple of the issues, and of course the 9% allocation to local government has been something that I've been banging on about for the last six and a half years. And I mean, yes, we've seen advancements. It was far lower. It's now 9.6%, which is something of a move in the right direction, but still insufficient. Mr. Pakkies, I think you need to read the room and understand the mood of the provinces and the inputs that you get given. And blaming the Constitution because, you know, this is, and I mean, the phrase you used was constitutionally mandated allocation. It's inappropriate to lean back on the Constitution. We're all in agreement, Mr. Pakkies and Treasury, that the own revenue generation models that were drawn up when local government was first conceptualized have not materialized as they were expected to do so. And I mean, there's a previous chairperson of the Finance Committee, the Select Committee on Finance, that was involved in those initial discussions, who's one of the first people to agree and admit, and we've heard him say so on this committee meeting in its previous iterations before. The own revenue generation projections just haven't been met. There needs to be a new plan. Yes, the comment came through from, I think, every single province in the negotiating mandates. Every single province was saying, we need to look at this white paper. We need to move forward. You've come here today and said, well, we're talking about it. But I think, honestly, what provinces and what we as members are looking for is some sort of a tangible discussion about, you know, Treasury and COGTA are indeed engaging constructively and positively and talking about these things. And the solution is imminent. You know, give us some warm, fuzzy feeling that we can know that there is indeed progress. Not that there's just incessant talk shops that are going to result in nothing material in our lifetime, because that's the feeling that I was given today. Frankly, again, you know, when we spoke about provincial equitable share, when we spoke about the infrastructure programs, when we spoke about traditional leaders, every single time, the response from Treasury this morning was discussions are taking place. The reality, please, ladies and gentlemen from Treasury, discussions are fantastic and they need to be held, but we need to see where we're going and actually get proper direction. That's what the provinces have asked for in these negotiating mandates. They want some degree of certainty that they're not going to be left languishing in the same position that they're in right now in perpetuity. Because I think funding it's at the core of any government's operations, and that's what keeps people up at night, is how are we going to be able to deliver the services that we are constitutionally mandated to deliver when we don't have the financial capacity to do so. So yeah, I think read the room, and maybe often it's as important as what you say. More important is how you say it. And I don't think deflecting responsibility to the Constitution this morning was a good line to take. I want to pick up as well on the comments around the provincial equitable share discussions that are happening. And importantly, what you've said there, your provincial colleagues are not being as transparent as we would have liked them to be. That's a more or less quote from you from the presentation this morning. And I think this is part of the point that we've spoken about before, and it's been raised by me before, is the fact that very often the executive and the administration in the provinces are barreling down the route of sitting in the Budget Council, getting information, negotiating these things behind the scenes. But it's the chairperson of the committee and the members on the finance committee that are not being taken on board and not being adequately informed of how things are going. And that's why you're seeing the comments consistently that frustrate you, Treasury. The fact is that you say provincial colleagues are not transparent. The information is not getting to the people that are tasked with compiling these reports, with having the deliberations that give rise to the reports that we're talking about now. So if your provincial colleagues are not being transparent, there's a simple solution. Either make sure that the chairpersons of the portfolio committees in the provinces are included in the discussions, or that you do an outreach and make sure that the committees are empowered. And that would be my preference by far, is to ensure that an entire committee is empowered with information just to update them on what the discussions are around provincial equitable share. And realistically, I know there are many issues to balance, and I think that Northern Cape has got a very strong, valid case to argue because of the large distances and the high cost of delivering services. However, we've got Gauteng that's also sitting with major issues because of the fact that they've have massive urbanization and influx, often which is not documented in time, again because of the long periods between censuses, etc., and the Stats SA issues that we've unpacked already. So there's arguments for and against in different provinces, but be transparent, have these discussions, go and talk to the provinces, have an outreach, please. I think it's important that we consider that. Yeah, and I've touched on the rest. Just this issue of discussions are taking place. We really would like some signals that discussions have been taking place for some time and we are near a solution, and you will hear from us in the next financial year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ryder. Honorable Majola.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. As much as I'm partially covered by the previous speaker, Madam Chair, in concurring with the late receiving of the National Treasury responses. But nevertheless, Madam Chair, one is welcoming the formation or the introduction of the steering committee that will be looking at the accuracy of the 9% local government equitable share. The unfortunate part, Madam Chair, just to add from the previous speakers, is really unfortunate that the outcome of this steering committee, which will be looking at whether the previous assumption of the municipal collection capacity will contribute towards the increase or a decrease of this 9% will not be featured on what we are doing now in terms of this amendment bill. The process, the timelines will be finished in March 2026, and then the findings of the steering committee in terms of considering the new revenue source for municipality, the expenditure pattern, will only influence the 2027 budget. So it is a concern, Madam Chair, as it has been highlighted by the previous speaker, that well, it should have been done before we even consider this amendment bill, Madam Chair, to feature it to whatever we are amending in terms of this 9%. Because without saying it, it tells us that without these reviews, the 9%, the 9.6% will easily be regarded as a dumb sack. Having said, Madam Chair, and with regards to the provincial equitable share, it's disturbing, Madam Chair, to keep on getting the report relating to stats and its updated data. So again, without this stats SA data, also looking at the discrepancies between what we allocated to provinces and what we are adjusting now, it tells you that without this stats SA and poverty, education, and health component, therefore the formula, Madam Chair, it's also a thumbs up. On a positive note, towards my closure, I would like to applaud the proactive approach by the National Treasury with regards to the disaster grant, by now introducing or incorporating the climate risk assessment. That's a good approach, Madam Chair, because most of these disasters, be it a flood or fire, if this risk assessment were conducted, we should have been saving a lot to this before the actual disaster occurred. With those comments, Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Majola. Honorable Ndlovu.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson, and our members on the platform, including the National Treasury and the Provincial Portfolio Chairpersons. Chair, I'm not going to repeat what other members are saying. Safe to say, I think it's really shocking for us to receive the report from National Treasury today, but it's something that we want also to join honorable members in saying this is unacceptable and let it be corrected. But the critical point, Chair, on my side is the issue of the response, because you see a lot of provinces, including Limpopo, it says no mandate. I'm not sure what does it mean, because at least if the National Treasury can say the no recommendations, because all the provinces, we have submitted the mandate. So I think it's one of the areas that I wanted to check, Chair. I don't want to go through all those things because my province still have to go through the report again, because the mandate was coming from them, and then we will also be able to engage further on the mandate. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ndlovu. Honorable Swart.
Good morning, good day, Honorable Chairperson and members. Thank you very much for the presentations. Honorable Chairperson, just on behalf of the Western Cape, we had quite some recommendations included in our mandate that we've sent in. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to make input this morning. The Western Cape welcomes the comprehensive written responses provided by National Treasury to the negotiating mandates submitted by all provinces. We are encouraged by the constructive engagement and the clarity offered on several matters. But I've heard on what Honourable Suisa and Honourable Ryder said, and I concur also with that, Honourable Chair. We need to work together. We need to sort out all this, issues that's still hanging, and we need to just work closer together. Firstly, I want to acknowledge and appreciate National Treasury's confirmation on our the recommendations that we sent in, and the first one, the confirmation that the additional Section 6 allocations for compensation of employees in health and education will continue over the 2026 MTFF. Honourable Chair, this assurance is important for all provinces, as rising wage pressures directly affect frontline service delivery. Sustained support in this area will strengthen our collective ability to safeguard essential public services. Secondly, I note National Treasury's continued engagement with National Department of Health regarding the withdrawal of PEP funding. We support, and I'll support, the effort to secure a sustainable long-term financing arrangement for these critical HIV and community health programs. Service community continuity must remain a priority, particularly for vulnerable communities in our country. Thirdly, Honourable Chair, the province, I also welcome the ongoing review of the PES formula. I particularly appreciate that future phases of the review will examine the weighting of population growth and economic growth competence. As a province, experience significant, Honourable Chair, in-migration and economic expansion. It is vital that the PES formula remains responsive to demographic shifts and the real cost pressures they create. We maintain our position on the need for a long-term reconsideration of the vertical division of revenue. While we understand National Treasury's view on fiscal constraints and the need to balance debt sustainability with service delivery, we also recognize the rising demand for basic infrastructure and social services in rapidly growing provinces and municipalities. I therefore support the inclusion of this matter in the broader review of the white paper on local government, and look forward as province to continue dialogue on more sustainable models for the future. Thirdly, appreciation of the ongoing work towards rationalizing and strengthening the conditional grant system. We as province support further exploration of which grants may responsibly migrate into the provincial equitable share, such as certain human settlements grants, provided that norms, standards, and accountability mechanisms remain. Grants, and the intention to reduce overlaps and streamline funding frameworks. A reliable water and sanitation service are foundational to economic growth, public health, and community development. I believe this reform will strengthen implementation at municipal level and improve long-term sustainability. And then seventhly, on the recommendations of the Western Cape, notes the importance of strengthening Stats SA's capacity. Timely and accurate demographic updates are essential for fair PES and LGS allocations. And we support the call for Stats SA to be adequately resourced to carry out this mandate. And lastly, I appreciate the clarity provided regarding the implications of the lower inflation target. Chairperson, and in conclusion, I value, as a representative of the Western Cape, the collaborative nature of this process. We welcome National Treasury's openness to ongoing engagements, as Mr. Paki said, on this equitable share formula, the vertical division of revenue, the restructuring of conditional grants, and the broader reforms ensuring a sustainable, fair, and responsive fiscal framework for our country, South Africa. I thank you, Honourable Chair.
Honorable Swart, you'll keep on losing connectivity.
I'm finished, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Swart. Honorable Brett, you are invited to make your input.
Did you hear some of the things that I've said, or was I cut out?
You were breaking towards your conclusion.
Okay, all right. But okay, I'm finished on time. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Swart. Honorable Brett.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to everybody on the platform, all colleagues and all officials. First of all, let me put on record my dissatisfaction with Treasury's response to the Eastern Cape's negotiating mandate. I get the feeling that National Treasury is passing the buck to a certain extent, and in some instances to a large extent. In the negotiating mandate, the Eastern Cape highlighted several key issues that requires the attention of National Treasury. And it not only requires attention, but it requires action. Some of those that I wish to highlight. Regarding the salaries of traditional leaders, this is a recurring request from the Eastern Cape. It has also been raised with Treasury in the previous cycle, and it seems to me that the answer remained the same, to wit, ongoing negotiations with COGTA. Now, that is not a satisfactory answer, and I think it is high time that Treasury come up with a workable solution. Then regarding the Eastern Cape's issue that they've highlighted, to wit the Provincial Transport Operation Grant, I've noted on behalf of the Eastern Cape Treasury's response that the province is encouraged to work with operators to ensure that operational costs are accommodated within the provincial baselines, supplementing grant funding with the equitable share where necessary to ensure sustainable service provision. Now, when we dissect this answer and this reply from Treasury, we find that there is words are used, but there is not workable action. Coming to the issue of local governments in the Eastern Cape, which is owned an amount of 2.7 billion rand by provincial government, which weaken financial performance of municipalities in this province. I note that Treasury is replying that the objective is clear: protect service delivery, enforce financial discipline, and ensure that municipalities are paid fairly and on time for services rendered. Now, this is a response, but it is not a quality response that's going to help to address the problem that the Eastern Cape has highlighted. And this answer is inadequate. Regarding scholar transport, once again, I've noted the response by Treasury, but I don't think that Treasury realize the magnitude of the problem regarding scholar transport in the Eastern Cape. At this very late stage of the year, this issue has not been resolved. Operators have not been paid, and children still cannot go to school because of an ineffective system. Now, much more is needed and more action is needed from Treasury side to address this issue and to assist the Eastern Cape Province to address this issue. Regarding the response on the 100 million rand that was earmarked for the Eastern Cape via the EIG for schools that were damaged by floods, we welcome Treasury's response. But once again, Honourable Chairperson, it appears to me that National Treasury is passing the buck. National Treasury is using an easy exit door to say that there are ongoing negotiations regarding several issues. But effectively, the issues are still not being addressed. Thank you, Honourable Chair. That is my contribution.
Thank you very much, Honorable Brett. May I now invite Mark Aurego and the team from National Treasury to respond.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable. Good morning, Honorable members. I think firstly I would like to sincerely apologize for the late submission. Would have liked to submit yesterday, but generally there is a process we follow before we submit. So, but we sincerely apologize, and I will make sure that this never happens again. We really apologize for the late submission. So I'll answer a few issues and then I'll ask the team to come in. I think the issue that Honorable Suisa raised about the issue of transparency, I think that one, the way Honorable Ryder put it, kind of answered that, because all we're saying is that provinces are part of, particularly the provincial treasuries, are part of our processes. But it seems like, as Honorable Ryder captured it, the information is not filtering through to the whole of the province, including perhaps themselves. When they report to the legislatures, they are not saying we've been part of the process. Now they view the formula as we're not transparent. But I think the point that Honorable Ryder made about what about an outreach, I think it's something that we might want to consider, but obviously through this committee to say, so that the members of this committee as well are empowered. So I think perhaps if we have to do such thing, we will have to come through this committee so that the members as well are empowered in that regard. The issue of capacity, I indeed, Honorable Suisa, the capacity we need it, but it cannot be the reason why we did not submit on time. So I thought I should make that point. And just to say, I mean, we do have different teams within National Treasury. As much as the team that you are meeting with today is the one that deals with the matters of division of revenue, but there's a team, for example, that is dealing with provincial budget analysis that goes to provinces whenever or few times a year in terms of meeting the departments, get a sense of what are the challenges within the province and so on. So I would say essentially, Honorable Suisse, we might not have perhaps indicated that here, but we do have our monitoring mechanisms in place through monitoring the budget. So therefore, there are issues that could be known by another team, but not the other. But obviously, we should not make that a problem of this committee. And I think perhaps also apologize for if we perhaps in our responses we deflected the responsibilities elsewhere, and with that I'll go to Honorable Brett's disappointment in the responses, particularly on the issues of I'll start with the request of conditional grants for salaries of traditional leaders. Maybe just to point out that more than perhaps 55% of the salaries paid for within provinces are paid from the equitable share, and only specific ones are paid from the conditional grants. And by stating this, I'm not saying we should not consider this, but I'm just giving background in terms of what's happening currently. So currently, if you look at the biggest sectors, your education, everybody in education except in few conditional grants, which is 0.something%, only perhaps 0.5% is paid from conditional grants, but the rest of the department, if you like, is from the equitable share, same as in health, and mostly in health. For example, you'll find that only the specialists and the medical interns and those who are doing the community service are paid from the conditional grants, but the rest of the nurses, doctors, and everyone is paid from the equitable share. Same with other departments, legislation, and so on, or even the legislative sector. So the point that I'm making that the issue of really just changing that from conditional grant is not an easy one. That's why it requires us to look at it carefully with the sector, with the view that, in this case, province ought to decide whether they want national government to take over this function or not. So there are a number of things that we need to consider in that respect of this one, but it's something that we are looking at, and it's something that we're finding ways in terms of, even on these issues of traditional leaders, the concerns that we get raised by traditional leaders is how to assist them. For example, minister is committed to assist them with, for example, infrastructure policies, something like that. So we need to consider together with provinces, of course, in terms of what is the best way of dealing with the issue of traditional leadership. And obviously, as a start, as much as the province is asking for the conditional grant, for us to start with the conditional grant, we're going to start with the money in the system. So therefore, it means, because this function exists currently, as a start, we're going just to take that equitable share, cut it in those provinces, and as a start, because there's no new money at the moment. So I'm just making examples of why this matter is so difficult at this point. So the PTOC, I think it's noted, and maybe also in this regard, just to make the point that we know that concern, and we're fully aware that there are a number of provinces. For example, it's not only Eastern Cape, and I'm not saying it is better because it's not only them, but just to indicate to members that there are 3 provinces, which is Northwest, Limpopo, and Eastern Cape, that are really co-funding this PTOC. And obviously, some of this comes from the way the country was structured prior to 1994, because those buses existed. Those ones that were funded from national. So it has been really difficult, as much as they get this funding, but the funding is not adequate, and we're well aware of that fact. For as national government, including even the Department of Transport, we're well aware that the funding has not been adequate to the extent where those provinces take away that equitable share funding from these bus services or subsidies. So it's an issue that we are really well aware of, and we need to find a way of how do we best obviously solve it, if it's possible to solve it at some point. The issue of debt owed to municipalities, maybe just to as well, is that, it's something that we continuously engage provinces on. For example, recently we had the road shows with different provincial treasuries, and part of what we're talking about is this issue of debt owed to municipalities. And the reason we're raising it is because our minister is at the point where he's saying, I know you guys want to, not talking about us, to say you guys want to stop money from municipalities who are owing water boards and all of that, your ESCOM and your Auditor General and the pension funds. But what about those provinces and national departments that are owing municipalities, obviously across the board, across the country? And in terms of the current PFMA amendments that we're busy with, we're trying to make sure that this is possible to a point where we say to provinces, because you owe these municipalities, are also going to withhold your equitable share. So that's what we are doing at the moment. But obviously, that work is not concluded yet. But that's where we are with regards to that. We note also the point about the scholar transport. Scholar transport really, I think it's a crisis on its own. We'll have to go back and discuss with the basic education. So perhaps I think from our side with my team is that because we know that some of these issues, as Honorable Brett rightly indicate, that they are recurring matters, recurring requests, then what do we do now between now and make sure that when they come back again in February, we've got better answers than we have today. So I think we need to do something, try and figure out a way of discussing with the sector and saying this issue, because of scholar transport, is a problem across. We hear learners not having the right buses and all of that. So I think it's something that Honorable Chair will have to do something about. But for now, I'll pause and hand over to my team for more responses. Thank you. Dr. Prakis?
No, thanks, Dirichi. And thanks to the honorable members. I think I should firstly apologize, Honorable Ryder. I didn't mean to blame the Constitution for the funding. I was merely indicating that the formula itself is responding to a constitutional provision. And obviously that has since been articulated in the white paper, which is where now the current framework was based on. So at the time of the white paper, honorable members, local government was only getting 1% of the nationally raised revenue, and over the years it's been increasing. And where we are now is then assessing what would then be an adequate level of the national revenue raised funding. So we're just really asking for your patience in terms of assisting us with the process that I have outlined in terms of where we are in the process and the timelines, so that we can then come up with a more systematic way of determining what then is a fair share for local government. And of course, honorable members, this also has implications for other spheres of government as well. Because if we are to increase the share of local government, it means either national or provincial would need its share reviewed as well. And there's a targeted savings approach that is currently taking place, looking at some of the inefficiencies in the system, and those would then also inform how the shares look post that a particular intervention. And of course, the Metro Trading Services reform is also aimed at assisting us in terms of really getting more from municipalities in terms of investing in these assets that are generating income, which will in turn then also boost our economic growth, making more money available then, because if there's more money that can be made available through improved growth prospects, then it would then be plowed into the the sectors and the spheres that are needed to most. And I think the provinces have made a strong case for local government in this case. Honorable members, I'm sorry if maybe it felt like it's talk shows that are taking place at the level of national around these issues. There are legitimate processes that are in place with timelines. Apologies if I didn't speak to those, but I think in terms of the local government fiscal framework, at least I gave a lot of indication of the draft reports that exist and the kind of reports that would also come. But in terms of the white paper, it's not just the Treasury and DCOC. The process is led by DCOC, but we're playing an important role in that. So our DDG, Mekharikwe, is actually chairing one of the themes that is looking at the financing component of local government. And there are draft reports here, honorable members, already that have been produced. Of course, the direction in terms of the policy implication at this point is under consideration because DCOC have also brought a team of experts together from the academia, but also those that were the original drafters of the white paper as well, but also some former municipal mayors and municipal managers who form a critical part of this driving this work, and our former DDG is part of those. So they have been convening these, and the reports that are being considered, they are being considered across the sectors, with SALGA also as a representative of local government there. So it's really not, there are policy options that are currently being considered, and as the white paper will come before the fiscal framework, which is how the system should happen, is that the report will be made available way before we start with the modeling of the local government equitable share, as the white paper processes are supposed to then be concluded, at least in part, by March, early March next year. And the importance of this, honorable members, is because the issue, I've indicated that the issue of traditional leaders as well as it relates to local government is also being discussed there as well. So it's also important that the role of local government in that funding space is also well articulated in terms of the white paper policy, but also there are also suggestions around the districts, whether the districts should exist and should they exist in the same kind of form as they are now. So there are proposals that are being made, and all these honorable members shift in a major way how the architecture of local government currently is, and that will inform the kind of fiscal responses then that we're going to come up with. So the sequencing is designed in that fashion, and then there are draft reports that are being considered, and that will be used by this panel of experts to then make the final policy position on these matters. I wanted to perhaps maybe just show as a way of indicating, if I still have time, Chair, some of the recommendations that have come that are being considered, but I think I'm gonna take much time. But it's suffice to say, there is work, honorable members. We are involved, but we're not the only ones. It's a whole of government approach that is being taken in doing this work. So just bear with us as we try and conclude these policy decisions and positions.
Okay, Honorable Chair, we'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the responses. Can I get an indication from members if they were sufficiently covered with responses? There's an indication that members are satisfied with their responses from National Treasury, and let me take this opportunity and thank your good selves for making time to come and respond. We're noting the apology of sending the responses late and all other points which you have made and considered as they were raised by members. Honorable members, allow me to thank the National Treasury and give them space to can vacate the platform, as we still have 4 sets of minutes that we need to consider in today's meeting. Maharekwe and the team, thank you very much once again. Enjoy the rest of your day. Your responses is going to be very much helpful, and it will assist the committee as we'll be preparing our report as a committee on the division of revenue and on any other bills that we need to deal with. Thank you very much. You are more than welcome to can vacate the platform, because the next item will not be needed to take any part in it. Thank you very much. Mr. Nodada, kindly take members through the first set of meetings.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, Chairperson and honorable members. Chairperson, on the screen is the set of minutes dated 26th November 2025. Oh, sorry. Let me go back just a little bit, Chairperson. Thank you, Chair. On the day, the committee was briefed by National Treasury and FFC on 2 bills, the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill and the Adjustments Appropriation Bill. Thank you, Chairperson. This is page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10, which is the last page. Thank you, Chairperson. Over to you.
I see the hand of Honorable Ndlovu. Honorable Ndlovu.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks very much. I move for the adoption of the minutes as presented as a true reflection of what transpired. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ndlovu. Honorable Ndlovu moves. Can I get Honorable Majola?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the adoption of the minute. Thank you.
Minutes duly adopted. Mr. Nodada, the second set of minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, Chairperson. Thank you. The second set of minutes, Chairperson, is dated 28th November. The minutes are on the screen, Chairperson. On the day, the committee was briefed by SALGA and PBO on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill and the Adjustments Appropriation Bill. Thank you, Chair. This is page 1. Page 2. Page 3. 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, which is the last page. Thank you, Chairperson. Over to you.
Honorable Brits,
I propose the adoption, Madam Chair.
Mr. Brits proposes, Honorable Ryder.
Seconds, Chair. Thank you very much.
Minutes duly seconded. Next set of minutes, Mr. Nodada. Mr. Nodada.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, honorable members. Apologies for that slight delay, Chairperson. The third set of minutes, Chair and honorable members, is dated 3rd December 2025. The committee held public hearings on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill B28 of 2025 and the Adjustments Appropriation Bill B27 of 2025. Thank you, Chairperson. This is page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4, honorable members. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9, which is the last page. Thank you, Chair. Over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Nodada. Honorable Siwisa.
Thank you, Chair. Move to adopt the minutes as a through reflection.
Honorable Siwisa moves, Honorable Brits.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I second.
Honorable Brits seconds the adoption.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Nodada, the last set of minutes.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, honorable members. Chair, the last set is dated 9th December 2025. The committee considered the negotiating mandates on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill B28 of 2025 on that day. On page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, Page 7. Page 8. Chairperson, over to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nodada. Honorable Brits.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I move for the adoption of the document.
Honorable Brits moves. Honorable Ndlovu.
Thank you, Chair. I second.
The minutes are duly seconded. This brings us to the completion of the adoption of the minutes, which we needed to deal with as a committee. Members, let me just remind you that on Monday at 12 o'clock, the 11th of December, we'll be having another committee meeting from 12 o'clock until 2. It will be the 15th. Yes. We'll be considering the final mandates and the draft report on the 2025 Division of Revenue Amendment Bill. It will just be a meeting strictly to deal with the consideration and the adoption of the mandates and the committee's report on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill. This brings us to the end of today's meeting, colleagues. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye.
Thanks,
Sorry,
Mr.
Madam Chair.
Chair.
Madam Chair, can you confirm the date? Is it Monday? The 15th?
Yebo.
Oh, okay.
If I may add, honorable members, as you are looking out, we will try and send the final draft from our side before end of business today. Final draft report to you directly. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Nodada.
Thank you.
Bye, colleagues.